You were asked questions about another text message on May 10th of 2008. It's going to take me a second to get that. Okay, we'll have to do without it right now. Let's still talk about May 10th of 2008, okay?
Okay.
And you remember the prosecutor asking you questions about that?
Yes.
And this is the text message where Miss Arias mistakenly sends a text to Mr. Alexander, but it was meant for someone else. Do you remember that?
Correct.
Okay. And then the result from that, Mr. Alexander goes into a long tirade of why he's upset with her for doing such a thing. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the text messages from January 4th. Here's May 10th. This is Exhibit 448. Okay, so we're talking about the first text message that starts with, that is mistakenly sent to Mr. Alexander, right?
Correct.
And there were some questions about that, about the fact that by the end of this tirade, Miss Arias sends Mr. Alexander the text message again, the first part, and then finishing up what the text message would have been if she sent him the whole one. Do you know what I mean?
Kind of.
Okay. Well, in other words, the message that was sent to Mr. Alexander by mistake, it was broken up into two parts. Do you remember that?
Right.
Okay. And the first part got sent to Mr. Alexander, but the second part was deleted before it was sent to Mr. Alexander.
Correct.
Okay. And the entire text message conversation, this tirade, is about Mr. Alexander sending ordering Miss Arias to send him what that second part of the text message was.
Correct.
Okay. So at the end of this conversation, does she do that?
Yes.
And she sends it to him, and it really is of inconsequence, right? That unfortunately, he happens to be an ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
And this is something that Mr. Alexander wanted her to send to him to check to see what this text message was about, right?
Correct.
Is that any type of jealous behavior?
Well, on the part of Mr. Alexander, I would say, if he needs to have information about who she's seeing as a single woman, and they're talking about, at this point, pulling apart from each other, then him wanting to track down what she writes, because this is not the only time he does it.
Not the only time he does what?
It's not the only time he gets upset about the boyfriend. It's not the only time that he's told he's jealous. He's told he's jealous by the Hughes, that they laugh at that part where he says he's not. He's demonstrated jealous behavior with a man by the name of Abe. He's upset that she's seeing somebody. So, yeah, there seems to be a pattern in regard to Miss Arias that there's jealousy.
From Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
And when you say that you see this pattern, are you relying on just this one text message conversation?
No, not at all.
And all the things that you just talked to me about?
Yes.
And some of this, the fact that Miss Arias felt compelled somehow to actually send him the second part of the text message, does that speak to the type of position she was in at this point in their relationship?
Well, she's still connected enough that she wants to please him. She wants to comply with what he wants, and so she does.
Okay. And throughout this text message conversation, is Miss Arias apologizing?
Yes, she is.
So what about this text message conversation then is important to you with regard to your assessment? Taken in context, obviously, with everything else that you've seen.
Well, taken in context, what you see is someone, and I'm speaking about Mr. Alexander here, who gets upset because she's dating someone else, who demands to see a text that she inadvertently sent in part to him and wants to see the rest of it, that he gets very angry, and when he gets very angry, he goes over the top, that she has a pattern of apologizing to him, and that eventually, throughout these text messages over time, there seems to be this cycle where they have this incident, they have an argument, Miss Arias apologizes, Mr. Alexander then apologizes, and they make up.
So you talked a little bit about the fact that he gets angry, and there were some questions this morning about anger. And you had talked about that people have a right to be angry, right?
Yes.
Is it important to you how people handle their anger?
Yes, it is.
And when somebody goes into a long tirade, what does that mean for you with regard to their anger?
Well, first of all, that they have a way of keeping that anger going. So they have a way of somehow pulling in whatever that is that makes them feel righteous to keep going with their anger. And secondly, it's the nature of things that are said during the tirades, the name calling and the put downs, calling someone a sociopath and a liar and a lot of other words that make a difference. Most people that I work with, they explode. They might do something, but they pull back, and they don't keep this anger going. When somebody is able to keep it going and just verbalize it and keep going, it's a rage. It's not just anger. It tends to be rage.
Okay.
Which is scarier to me than anger.
Rage is scary? Why is that?
Because it's bigger than anger. It feels more out of control for most people. Rage feels like a more out of control emotion. Anger seems, and people are intimidated by anger. I mean, people are intimidated by anger in the workplace. They're intimidated by anger, oftentimes even in their relationships if they don't understand where it's coming from. But when someone has a pattern of being angry and continuing to be angry, it can be very intimidating to the person on the other side of it.
Okay. And you were asked questions, do you remember, about whether or not it would be possible if she sent this text to him on purpose to somehow incite him. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach? I'm showing you Exhibit 440. And I want, if you can review these messages.
The first
four.
First four. All right.
Okay. And these messages are from January 4th, 2008, right?
Yes.
And it's just a couple of messages. Based on your review of these messages, is it evident that Mr. Alexander sent Miss Arias a text that was meant for someone else? If you're looking at the second box and the third.
Yes.
And does he refer to sending a text message meant for someone else? Does he refer to it as "I pulled a Jodi"?
Yes, he does.
With a smiley face.
Right.
And then she responds laughing, right? Basically laughing in text message language.
Yes, she does.
So is this, based on your review of these messages, is it something that seemed to happen before, between the two of them, where they accidentally send a text message meant for someone else to each other?
Well, at least on these two occasions.
Okay. And in this particular occasion, there was nobody was upset about it, right?
Nobody was.
And in this instance, with regard to the May 10th exhibit or text message, with the implication or the idea that she would purposely try to somehow incite Mr. Alexander so that she could face his wrath and have him say things to her about, why don't you have him come and fuck you in the woods? Is that something that you see in her behavior anywhere prior to May 10th where she would be insightful like that, wanting to endure his wrath?
I haven't seen that in anything I've read, any of the interviews, any of her journals. No, I have not seen that.
And throughout this text message, she's apologizing, isn't she? Do you see where she's saying that...
I'm trying to read it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Here, and I'll switch it too. Where she's talking to him about, let's just adopt a don't ask, don't tell policy, right?
Right.
And do you see where she's in any way trying to ramp up this argument?
No, I see that she's trying to avoid an argument by neither one of them talking about their private lives, that she doesn't want that, and she doesn't think he wants it either, and so she's asking for this don't ask, don't tell policy to keep from having this escalation.
So with information in here about the fact, and do you see a pattern of her doing that in other ranting text messages from Mr. Alexander, a pattern of her trying to de-escalate, a pattern of her trying to apologize, things like that?
Yes, I see that repeatedly.
Okay. So given that information, does it in any way seem that she would purposely send him an email to incite him?
No.
I'm sorry, send him a text message to incite him.
No, and frankly, even if someone did that, the response...
And if someone did that, what?
Even if someone was doing that, the reaction to it...
Overruled.
Even if someone was doing that, even if people were doing, pushing each other's buttons, the reaction to pushing each other's buttons is what I look at, because most of us are the experts on pushing buttons with someone that we care about.
All right. Do you remember being asked questions about self-esteem?
Yes.
And the fact that Jodi received information that she had a high IQ?
Yes.
The fact that somebody has a high IQ or talks about having a high IQ, does that relate to them having high self-esteem?
No.
And speaking with the 44 hours that you spent talking with Miss Arias, did you get the sense that this high IQ somehow made her feel better about herself and gave her high self-esteem?
No, I did not get the impression at all that Miss Arias felt good about herself or proud of herself. No, I didn't.
Okay.